All right. Welcome. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Mindy Burke. I am a career and life coach, and I help information technology professionals to create more time and space for the things that matter most. And the way that typically shows up with the people I work with is that for most of us, at least my clientele, we are told our entire lives that we're supposed to do XYZ so that we can feel happy or we can consider ourselves to be successful. And so we set off to, go to school, get a degree, get married, get a good job, buy a house, have kids, all of those things. And we check off all those boxes thinking that we're going to feel a certain way or we're going to be a certain way by the end of that. And yet we look around and we go, I'm not happy. Or things aren't feeling quite the way I thought they would, and I don't feel successful, or whatever it is. So I help my clients to dig into that, create more passion, purpose, vitality in their lives so that they can live the lives that they really choose to live. And with that in mind, I am actually here to talk to Wendy today about what she does because it's also very impactful. And the way I met Wendy, we actually were in the same mastermind group coaching program. And we've gotten to talk a little bit, and I've learned a little bit about her and her business. And I wanted to ask her to share all of that with us. So, we're going to have a little bit of a conversation and allow her to share with you what it is that she does, what she feels passionately about, and why it's so important. And so, with that, Wendy, hello. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thanks for having me. I'm glad to be
Absolutely.
here.
Yes, good. It's a pleasure to talk to you in this
You too.
fashion. Love it. So, tell us a little bit, Wendy, about who you are and what your background is that brought you up to this point.
Right. So I'm a life and weight loss coach, but I also am an oncology nurse practitioner. And I've been in that field for 34 years now, and I still have that job. I call it my day job. But what I noticed was I just kept gaining more and more weight, um, especially after I hit menopause. And I thought there was no hope for me. I had tried all the diets. I had gained and lost the same 30 pounds over and over and over again, and then gained more when I went off the diets. And I was ready to give up and just be fat. But I just had this nagging, it was always in the back of my mind, about my weight. And not only that, is I work with a lot of cancer survivors, and I wanted to be an example to them of what health should look like
Mm.
and how to get there. And I didn't feel like I was. So I would stress eat all the time. I would come home from work, find myself in the pantry, snacking, not even knowing what I was eating, then make dinner and eat a full dinner, dessert, glass of wine. And that's how I relieved my stress. I had a very stressful job. And then I found Brooke Castillo from the Life Coach School, and I read her book, If I'm So Smart, Why Can't I Lose Weight? And I was just like, that's me. I have 2 master's degree. And I was like, why can't I figure this out? And it's because of the way we were taught how to diet, the diet mentality and the low sugar, low fat diet. I mean, high sugar, low fat diets that we were all on growing up. And I joined her self-coaching program and I did her weight loss program. But before I did that, I almost threw her book out when I was reading it because she talked about eating very little sugar, very little flour and processed food. And I thought to myself, in our society, that's impossible. How can I ever do that? Because we're surrounded by food. But
Hmm.
I finished her book. I gave her the benefit of the doubt. I figured out, well, I can always quit just like every other time.
Oh,
So I did
interesting.
it. Yeah, I did it. And I just halfway did it the first month. And I lost 4 or 5 pounds. And I was just like, oh, I feel pretty good. This wasn't so hard. And then I went all in in October 3 years ago, and I lost 12 pounds the first month. And then I know I had, and before that I had lost a half a pound one week and gained 2 pounds the next on Weight Watchers and all those other diets. But then my husband and I went to Italy, and I said, we went to Sicily, and I said, I can't possibly be on this diet and go there. And of course I didn't, because I had already decided.
Okay.
So I went there and I ate and drank my way through Italy, had all the breads and the pastas, and enjoyed myself thoroughly, gained all 12 pounds back. But then I noticed a difference. I felt so good eating the other way. I had more energy. I just felt better in my body. I wasn't bloated. And when I, you know, ate and drank all the sugar and flour I wanted, I felt more bloated, more tired, just a mental brain fog. And I was just like, a light bulb went on. I was just like, oh my gosh, I can choose to eat the other way. I don't have to eat this way. And then I decided to go all in and lost 55 pounds over 1 year, and have kept it 45 pounds off for 2 years.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
I wanted to do coaching because I wanted to help other women figure this out when they had lost hope, when they thought it was their hormones that were going to keep them fat, or lack of hormones that were going to keep them fat forever. And
Mhm.
there's other hormones that we can use instead of the estrogen and progesterone. There's insulin and the hunger hormones that we can regulate by when and how we eat.
I was going to say interesting. So other hormones, but you're saying by when and how we eat, not necessarily like taking supplements or anything like that.
No.
Okay.
I don't take any supplements.
Okay.
And no, it's the insulin hormone that's like the cruise director for any food that we eat in our body.
Okay.
It's a fat storage hormone. And when we eat a lot of sugar and processed foods, and we eat very often, like they taught us before on those low fat diets, then our insulin levels are always high.
Okay.
And so then our body can't use our own fat for fuel.
Interesting. And the
So
low fat does that.
Right.
Okay.
So then if you decrease the amount of times that you eat in a day, like only 2 or 3 times, and cut out all those snacks, you add more fat so you feel full longer, and you eat more vegetables and fruit and proteins and whole grains, then your insulin levels will come down,
Mhm.
and then you can use your own body fat for fuel, and you lose weight.
That is interesting because it goes, like you said, it goes against everything that we're taught
It goes
about
against
losing
everything.
weight.
Right. And then
So,
there's she got this, Brooke Castillo got this information from Dr. Jason Fung, who's the author of the Obesity Code. And
mm,
he's an endocrinologist and a nephrologist. So he deals with everyone with diabetes and insulin resistance
mm,
and kidney failure and all that. So he,
interesting.
the diets, the way that they taught us to lose weight before, they knew it didn't work. They knew that the studies showed that people did not lose weight with high intensity exercise and low fat diets, but they didn't know what else to tell us.
No kidding.
Yeah, it kind of makes you mad.
I have some thoughts about that.
Yes, I did too. I was mad when I read that book.
Yes. No wonder you wanted to throw it out. Oh my gosh. So coming from someone who loves my sugar and carbohydrates, going to Sicily for that
Right.
time frame, what was giving up those two things like for you? Like, what did you go through emotionally, physically, all that stuff?
Right. That's a great question. And, and I was always a breakfast is the most important meal of the day. I loved breads. I loved pasta. I loved, honey and all those sweet things. But I also liked, lots of fruits and vegetables and things like that. So the way I did it is the first 2 weeks, were hard because you're coming off of a sugar high.
Mm,
And you're a little bit more tired. You get a little bit maybe more hangry, and and you feel, you just don't necessarily feel right. But I mean, it's not that bad because if you're eating more fat, then, you don't feel super hungry
Okay.
necessarily, but you're a little cranky
Okay.
and more a little bit more tired. That's what I felt.
Okay.
Some people get a little bit of a headache, but that didn't last very long at all. And it was super manageable. And then, then I started feeling good. I started having more energy. And when you feel better and you see results, you're more likely to continue to do those things.
Yeah. So let me ask you about that because you and I were talking a little bit before I turned on the record, and the question I actually wrote down is how do you address it when, like I said, I'm like a sugar and carbohydrates queen pretty much, and like my brain is pretty much, yeah, I love pasta. I'm not sure I could give up pasta, even though I know that I feel better when I don't eat it.
Right. And so, okay, that is a great question. So you don't give up any food. You just eat less of it.
Oh, okay. My head wanted to go, huh? Okay.
You do no, this is not a diet that you give up your favorite foods for life or anything like that. This
Okay.
is a healthy eating plan that you're gonna do that works for your body. So if
Okay.
you decide how many times a week you're gonna eat that pasta. You see how it
Mm.
works with your weight loss. You figure out every week, you write down things the day of, the
Mhm.
morning you eat something, you write things down in advance. Then you see how it worked with your body for weight loss. It's all trial and error.
Mhm.
So you pick the foods that you want to eat. I give people general guidelines over what to eat. I have food lists, sample menus, and things like that. But they have to continue the plan. They have to do the plan.
Right, yeah.
So if they want to eat pasta twice a week, I have them try it and see if they can still lose weight.
Yeah, okay. Well, yeah, because
Other
you said the first month was like 12 pounds. If
Yeah,
I wanna keep my pasta and only lose 5 pounds, I guess that's a possibility.
there you go.
Yeah,
Yes.
okay.
So I didn't incorporate, I call it a joy eat where you eat your favorite food,
Uh-huh.
whether it's dessert, a cheesecake, whether it's, lasagna, your favorite pasta or whatever.
Mhm.
But I didn't do that until the second month. So
Okay.
that's why I was able to lose the 12 pounds.
Okay, gotcha. Interesting, alright. So that's as your body's readjusting to this different way of eating. I mean, you're not even calling it a diet, it's like a different way of eating.
Right.
There's 2 things that comes up for me, and I kinda wanna address them one at a time. The first thing was, okay, so if you're in the beginning of this interview, you had said you were coming home from work stressed and finding yourself going to the pantry, and then making a full meal and then having dessert, all that stuff. So, how are you addressing the stress now that you're not going to the pantry?
That's a great question. So I had to teach myself with the tools that are in the self-coaching scholars, the self-coaching tools that I
Okay.
learned along the same time that I was changing my eating habits. I was learning how to deal with stress besides going to food, how to handle negative emotions, and learning what it feels like in my body to have that emotion so I can recognize it and
Mm.
say, oh, I know, this has been a hard day. I talk to myself on the way home from work
Okay.
and I say, I know I'm going to want to eat, chips or whatever before I cook dinner on my way home. I said, I
Mhm.
already know that. So I let myself feel that, and tell myself that I don't have to do that. I can choose to not do that and just meditate for 10 minutes when I get home.
Oh, interesting. And I'm just imagining because I know I've gone through periods where I meditate, that meditation, what I mean, aside from not going to the pantry when you get home, what other benefits did you feel like that meditation period had for you?
It just helps me relax and decompress from the day, which is what I need to do. So going to the pantry is not going to help me do that. It's just going to numb my discomfort and just make it go away maybe temporarily, and then I'm going to feel bad about it. And then I'm going to
Mm.
beat myself up, so I'm going to feel worse overall.
Oh, wow. That's quite the cycle, right? And I think that's a common cycle. I mean, now that you're saying it, I've never heard it explained that way before, but I'm like, oh, yeah, that's totally
It
what happens
is,
with me.
oh yeah, it's a vicious cycle.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
So then
Okay.
you're constantly telling yourself something negative all the time instead of coming home knowing that after a stressful day that that's your go-to is wanting to eat something,
Hmm.
but instead I'm choosing to, you know, go in my bedroom and meditate for 10 minutes.
Yeah. So if I can just or kind of reflect back to what I think I'm hearing you say, it's first of all the awareness that this is
Yes,
my typical pattern,
right.
and then finding a method to kind of step out of that loop and find a I'm going to say more productive way of handling that stress.
Right. So
Okay.
you're trying to instead of false pleasure of food,
Hmm.
you're trying to um, create more things that help with your well-being, more habits.
Oh, I just got chills down my legs. That's cool. So you're
Mhm.
it's so it's not even handling the stress. Well, it does that too, but so it's handling the stress as well as this is like for me. You know what I
This
mean?
is for me.
Yeah, we think going to the pantry is for us because in the moment we think it makes us feel better, but it of course has those long-term negative effects that you're talking about.
Exactly.
Whereas my my way of handling the stress now is not just compensating for the loss of that, but it's actually for me. I love that. So cool.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, cool. I've never thought about that before as I was trying
Mhm.
to lose weight or trying to avoid pasta. So that's a really cool
Right.
angle.
And if you couple, some a habit that you want to change, you can use this with anything. It doesn't have to be weight loss. It can be shopping on shopping online. It can be, watching Netflix, over drinking, with any habit that you really kind of want to get rid of, is you can just become aware of your triggers for
Mm.
that habit
Mhm.
and become aware of a lot of the thoughts that are in your mind. And you do that a lot of times by writing, maybe keeping a journal for 5 or 10 minutes a day. And then you pair that, what you want your habit to be for your well-being, with something that you do on a daily basis. So I come home from work and I go in my bedroom and I change into comfy clothes.
Okay.
So then I have my tablet in the bedroom, and before I go make dinner, I am spending 10 minutes of my time meditating. So I'm pairing a habit that I normally do every day, getting comfy clothes,
Mhm.
and then I meditate for myself.
I think
And
that
I'm
would make it
breaking the habit of going to the pantry.
yeah. I think that would make it easier, and this is just me thinking out loud, would make it easier to remember to do that thing too, because now you're
Right.
programming your brain, comfy clothes, meditate.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay. That's helpful too. Geez, you're full of good stuff. Um, so the other thing that came up as you were talking around, planning what you're going to eat is I guess first of all, for me, that sounds hard just because I'm like, just go to the cabinet and grab whatever I have versus actually planning out. So I guess first, if we could talk about that, and then I'll go into the second question.
You bet. So planning what you're going to eat in advance helps you use the part of your brain that makes decisions, the parent part of your brain
Okay.
that make decisions that are good for you,
Okay.
right? Instead of using the primitive part of our brain, the toddler brain that's in the moment, where you're not going to always make very good decisions. So when you plan in advance what you're going to eat for that day, that means you have it in the house. And I plan for the week, but not everybody wants to do that. It takes me 5 minutes.
Really? Okay.
Really. That people think it's hard, and it's not hard. It takes 5 minutes because you're not writing down the calories, fat grams, carbohydrates, all points, all those things. You're writing down, whatever you're going to eat for breakfast. Like for me, I do intermittent fasting. So I do coffee with heavy whipping cream. Lunch, I do a salad with turkey and cheese, olives, and ranch dressing, and an apple. That's what I write down. I don't write the amount or anything. And then dinner, let's say tonight I'm having roasted Brussels sprouts and butternut squash with olive oil, and then pork tenderloin.
Oh my gosh, that sounds delicious.
It's easy. That's 4 ingredients.
So maybe you need to hold cooking class. Maybe you already do this, holding cooking classes, because I'm terrible with that.
So I teach my clients to make simple meals.
Okay.
5 ingredients or less, if possible.
Oh, wow.
And that way it's simple to do, doesn't take a lot of time, because there's a lot of people out there that don't cook much. And and or they go out to eat, or they think that, they won't want to eat what they wrote down. Well, just decide that you do want to eat it that day.
Interesting. Yeah. So let me ask you, like, it takes you 5 minutes to plan the whole week?
No, it probably takes me, it takes me about 15 minutes to plan the whole week.
The whole week. Okay. But like 5 or whatever the night before or something. Is that where you're at? Okay. Because I was thinking, boy, 5 minutes to plan the whole week. Does that mean you're eating the same thing like all the time?
I do eat similar lunches all the time.
Okay.
Like I just rotate them because it's just easier for me. But I eat different dinners all the time.
Okay.
But they're all like, I have Taco Tuesday where you make, hamburger. And then I just add a lot of vegetables to everything. I add pre-cut bell peppers, pre-cut onion. So it's easy and simple to do. And then then you can add black beans if you want to, or, salsa and just the spices that you want to. And I have it over lettuce.
Oh, okay. Instead of having like taco shells or whatever.
Right.
Okay. I actually prefer that anyway.
And right. And then my dad has it with taco shells, and my husband has it with a flour tortilla.
Okay.
So you can add little things for other family members. I mean, it doesn't take that much effort.
That's great. Okay. So the question that kind of came along with that is, if you are taking the time to plan out your meals, and as you get better at doing that, I imagine there is an aspect in there then of, I don't know if it's learning to trust yourself or being accountable to yourself. Like, what happens intellectually, emotionally, mentally, whatever, as you go through this process?
Right. You do learn how to trust yourself. You learn how to make decisions and stick to it with the decision-making part of your brain, and that builds trust. So then when your brain tries to tell you that this is never going to work, it's too hard, I'm not losing weight fast enough, you're not going to believe it, because you've already created evidence that you can do it.
Mm-hmm.
You can stick to a plan, that it is working.
Yeah. So, and I'm just curious, have you had, I mean, obviously you've worked with clients. So like when that starts to happen, do you see that shift kind of occurring or flowing over into other areas of their lives? Or can you speak more to that?
It does. It flows over into every other area of your life. For me, when I lost the weight, I also improved my relationships. It improved my organizational skills, because when you plan things in advance, I just created more of a routine in my life,
Mm-hmm.
which I liked. And also it helped. I also had was drinking too much wine, or I didn't want to drink as much wine as I was drinking. So it helped me in over drinking as well.
Okay. Interesting. You just mentioned routine. So what do you say to that? I'm pointing to myself when I say that pessimist that says, I don't really like routine. I like to be spontaneous. Like, what do you say to a client with that kind of objection?
You can have spontaneity in every other area of your life. But if you want to lose weight, this is one area where structure matters.
Okay. All
So you
right.
can be spontaneous in other areas of your life.
Okay. And finding ways to, I guess, balance the two, right? The
Right,
spontaneity
right,
with
right.
structure.
Right. For example, if you want to go out to dinner and you don't know, let's say you're going to a restaurant that doesn't have online menus.
Mm-hmm.
There are some, but not maybe some at the beach or something like that that don't
Uh-huh.
have online menus. So then what you do is you say, okay, I'm going to have a protein, I'm going to have vegetables, and I'm going to have maybe a grain or a potato or something like that, which is a vegetable, and a healthy fat. And
What do
it
you
takes
consider?
some,
Sorry.
pardon me?
I was going to say, what do you consider healthy fat?
Uh, Full fat items. Butter is a healthy fat, real butter,
Okay.
olive oil, avocado, full fat dressings. More of the refrigerated kind are healthier versions, because they don't
Okay.
have as many additives.
Okay.
But you can also make your own with olive oil, lemon, and um, balsamic vinegar or whatever, any kind of vinegar you want to put in there.
Interesting. Okay. And so again, this kind of goes against like everything I was ever told about dieting. Like, um, maybe not, well, even the butter, like you should have margarine instead of butter and all
No,
that kind of stuff.
margarine is so processed.
Okay. So is that a lot of it? Like, if you were to say, okay, go to the grocery store and this is what you're looking for, how would you direct a client that way?
Right. I would look for things with very few ingredients,
Okay.
you know, e- like eggs, butter, like mayonnaise.
Okay.
Have a mayonnaise that is not super processed, like
Okay.
Duke's mayonnaise is eggs, butter, and I don't know what it has in there, but anyway, it's stuff that is naturally made with
Okay.
as few ingredients as possible. And for example, with the dressings, I buy the dressings in the refrigerated section of the produce section,
Okay.
and that they have, non-GMO ingredients. They're, very small list, and it's not a lot of partially hydrogenated bad fats.
Okay. Okay. So, and I heard you say earlier that in your coffee, you have like heavy cream. Is that what you said?
Yes.
So, heavy cream versus whole milk versus like skim, like you would take the heaviest stuff you could? Is that
Right.
right?
And the reason for that is
Okay.
because I mean, you're not drinking vats of it. You're drinking like 2 tablespoons.
Okay.
Uh, so you're not drinking huge amounts of it, but that is basically fat.
Okay.
Fat does not raise your insulin levels very much.
Okay.
So you can be in a fasting state, even having that cream,
Mhm.
so that your body can still access your own fat for fuel.
Okay. Interesting. That sounds so counterintuitive to me. Like you're taking in more fat. Like my brain says, well, my body then would process that fat instead of mine. But what you're saying is it's totally opposite.
Yes.
Interesting.
It's
Okay.
all in regulating the insulin and the hunger hormones.
Okay. And did you learn? I mean, I know you said you learned a lot of this from Brooke and her teachings. Is there any of this that you've learned in your background as a you said nurse, right? It was I forget
Yeah,
your
I'm a nurse practitioner.
yeah.
No, they give you one nutrition class and it's wrong.
Oh, you're kidding.
No,
Interesting.
It's really not about dieting very much. It's about, well, I mean, they did teach me all about low fat diets and exercising
Interesting.
when I was in school. Yeah, and that's the same one the doctors get.
So why do you think, I mean, I mean, this is my perception. Maybe I'm just out of touch, who knows? But why do you think they're continuing to teach us that method of losing weight if it's wrong?
Because the diet industry is like a $64 billion industry.
Oh, interesting.
It's money.
Again, no wonder you were angry when you read that book. Okay, wow. So, all right. So that's awesome. What else? Is there anything else that you'd like to share that we haven't talked about?
Well, I wanted to talk about kind of the all or nothing diet mentality that a lot of people have. And for instance, you were talking about your sweet tooth
Mhm.
and you like the sweets. So it's a if you have a diet or you see a diet that you want to try and you have to give up this, and this, then that should be a red flag
Mm.
that, it's probably not going to work for you. Because what happens when we have to give up all that stuff is we feel deprived
Yeah, and you want it more.
and you want it more. It
Yeah.
causes more cravings. So you have it once a week or twice a week, whatever you decide is right for you.
Mhm.
And then you enjoy the heck out of it and you won't have that craving anymore. And the reason why to reduce sugar and pastas and flour is not only to regulate the insulin, but also to decrease the desire. It decreases the dopamine that is you're being given by food, which is a
Mhm.
false pleasure hormone.
Okay.
So when you're eating a lot of sugar and processed foods and breads and pastas, your dopamine is through the roof every time you eat those things. So your body wants more and more and more of it.
Yeah, that's funny because when I don't eat sugar for a while and then I have it, it's almost like clockwork. Like the next day at almost the exact same time, I want it again.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. You're training your brain. Oh, that sounds good. We want more of that.
Mhm.
So if you are having less of that, whenever you eat anything, less of a dopamine hit,
Mhm.
if it's just a low level after you eat something, then you're not gonna you're not going to have as much desire for that, to eat off plan. So your cravings go down.
Okay.
So that's a beautiful thing.
That is a beautiful thing, especially if you like sugar and carbs.
Right. Right. It
Yeah.
will go down. And the one thing that I always tell my clients is that the cravings that we feel, it feels, like an urgent burning emergency. It feels like I have to have this now. Your
Yeah.
brain is telling you that. I need this right now. I can't wait.
Yeah.
So, and you just have to start talking to yourself and saying, this is not an emergency. This is just an emotion. It's just desire. I'm having it because I've trained myself to have it.
Mm.
And it's okay. I can handle this. It's just an emotion. I take a couple deep breaths, just sit with it for a minute and then process it and let it go. In about 90 seconds, it's gone.
Really?
It doesn't mean it won't ever come back.
Okay. Yeah, I was thinking, yeah, it just feels like when I crave something, it's almost like it's in the back of my mind, and maybe it's just that I never have gotten to the point where I've actually what you called processed it. But it's like this nagging thing in the back of my brain. I want chocolate. I want chocolate. I want chocolate. I want chocolate. And it's
Right.
yeah, okay.
So then
But
you're sending yourself those messages that which so then
mm,
your brain is increasing the dopamine and which increases the desire.
oh, interesting. There's that cycle again.
And by
Hmm.
not answering that urge,
Mhm.
to have the food, telling your brain that it's okay, it's not an emergency, it's just a false alarm,
Mm-hmm.
then and just kind of taking a couple of deep breaths, drinking a glass of water, it passes.
I'm going to have to try that one.
Try it.
Okay.
But we
Wow.
set
Very.
ourselves up, with all of this all or nothing mentality. So if I mean, I did this, my healthy eating plan, I pretty much did, do it all or nothing. I went all in
Okay.
finally. It took me a little while, but I went all in.
Uh-huh.
And that's when I, was really successful at losing weight. But I could have done it slower. So you can, if you are a person that just wants to take it a little slower, it's okay to do that.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to do everything all at once. You can slowly. I ask my clients, are you a person that wants to do this slowly, or do you want to rip the Band-Aid off and get going?
Interesting. Good question. What do you get more frequently?
I want to rip the Band-Aid off and get going.
Okay.
Mainly because they've just dealt with this for so long and they're so tired of it.
Yeah. And you know what? The one thing I don't think we've talked about really is who do you typically work with the most? Like who do you enjoy working with the most? Let's talk about that.
Women that are over 40 who have up to 50 pounds to lose.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right.
And
Very
who
cool.
feel like, they can't lose the weight because of their hormones.
Oh, okay. So like, hey, I've been to what about like things like thyroid issues? Like, does that change anything that you do or is it still pretty much the same?
A lot of times people with thyroid issues, they tend to lose weight a little slower.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just managing expectations. They can
Okay.
still lose the weight, but it may take a little bit longer to figure out what works for them.
Okay. Still hope though.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. All right. What else? Is there anything else you'd like to share? This is all good stuff.
Well, I do have a podcast.
Oh yes, please. How do people and that's something that I certainly want to wrap up with is
Yeah,
how can they get in touch with you? How can they find
right.
you? Yeah, let's share
I
that.
have a website, www.weightlosswithwendy.coach. And I have blogs on there, a lot of good information that I've had, over the past 2 years. And then also I have a podcast that I just started a few weeks ago. It's called Weight Loss with Wendy. And it's on iTunes, Spotify, all the major platforms. And I have a Healthy Habits 2.0 Facebook group that's free
Okay.
that I do.
Great. If you want to send me links to that, I'd be happy to share that
Oh,
when
sure.
I post it out for the public.
You
That'd be
bet.
great. Yeah. Okay. All right. If that's everything that you want to share right now, and that's great. I mean, you gave us a lot of good stuff today. So I want to thank you so much for
You
doing
bet.
this with me and
My
talking with
pleasure.
me. Awesome. So I'm going to say, have an awesome day, and I will see you again next week.